is 9:30 on a Thursday night, and you are tuned in to Beltway Radio and Beyond, which can mean one and only thing. This is ChipChat. Welcome to ChipChat, everybody. I'm Chip. Who are you, Tez?
You just told him, buddy. How are you?
Man, I got some shoulder pain. I gotta be honest. I don't know if it's like a.
You playing golf?
Stinger? No, I was supposed to, but then it rained, and but I do have an actual game coming up, or whatever. What do you call it?
Time. A game?
Yes. I don't know.
A game.
I'm gonna play golf. It's a game.
It's a tea time.
Well, it's a tournament for a charity thing.
Oh, those are always awesome. It's like a scramble. Is it one of those?
Yeah, and we're going with people who know even less about how to play than I do. So it should be highly entertaining.
No, it's gonna be fun.
But your clubs are serving well.
Perfect. Good. That's the most beautiful thing there.
In particular, the irons. I seem to be pretty good at those.
Yeah, those are a good iron set. That's a good iron.
They're doing.
I'm happy that it's happening for you. Enjoy.
Yeah. Yet another positive impact you've had on my life.
Oh, well, look, we won't start on
golf and nuance.
I don't know if I taught you nuance. We're still working on that one. Still working on that one, but we try.
All right, so this week is a special edition of Chip Chat because we have a returning guest.
Yes.
Dr. Shannon Cawthorn is going to be here. She has help this week. Well, actually, she had help the last time she was here, but that was years ago. And I believe she was on last time when we were predicting the downfall of Roe or planning for the downfall of Roe, and then it turned out we were right. So probably not great. Don't tune in. This is going to ruin your life going forward, I guess. I don't know.
Hopefully not.
No, we're gonna have her back. She's gonna start talking about her new practice.
Okay, give yourself the bell.
Yeah, there we go. We're also going to ask her if RFK is like an actual doctor or just a vehicle for brainworms.
I think we know the answer, but I'd love to ask.
We do, yeah. Trump loses in court, then he unlost, and then he lost again. So he's like today was a wild day. Like from the time that I finished writing last night to today, I've had to update the script a couple of times. So when you read it for the first time 2 minutes from now, it'll all look normal to you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
You never know.
And let's see. I know we say that every week, but there's like some big losses, and he's got like another one coming up. And then the schools are all having trouble because it's graduation season. And Brian happened to be filming a viral moment. So Brian is famous by proxy and not in a good way, which is most of the ways Brian's famous.
That's not.
Yeah, that's true.
That's not true.
He's mostly famous for being associated with this piece of crap.
It is a piece. Anyways, it's our crap.
You ready? This is my favorite one. Lil Rocket Man and Elon go toe to toe for the biggest failure to launch.
That's good.
That's good. Bell for that one.
Give yourself the bell for that one.
Yeah, and then the Penguins are back in the news.
They are back. I love that story. I heard that story. Yeah. Thank you.
It was the most Tez Talk story ever.
We're back. We brought it back to the climate, y'all.
We brought it all the way back. It's about dead ass birds. It's about tax ass birds. It's got climate. It's everything. It's maximum Tez.
It is a maximum Tez story.
If one of those penguins was named Jerome Powell,
that would be the full everything would come together as like the holy trinity of stories that we report on this show.
Your favoriteest things all at once.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it sounds like a packed show. Gonna be wild. Do you have a word?
Do I have a word? Word do I have?
It's tough to come up with words.
Sometimes sometimes I try to like make it work, so I'm just gonna come up with a word.
I've got the word.
All right, I'm gonna go for it. It probably won't work, but I got the word.
We're gonna find out. All right. So sit back, grab some
trees.
It's taco time. You're listening to the best show, the only show, Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and Beyond.
Swoops.
Chip Chat here on Beltway Radio and Beyond. I'm your host, Chip. With me is Tez.
That's probably up.
All right, now before we get to our guest, I wanted to run a quick. This is a visual bit, right, for our many viewers. Apparently, I don't know.
Yeah.
Number keeps going up. So, which of these two things is the chicken? You have to decide which one, this one or this one is the chicken.
The second one is the chicken.
The second one. And which goes better in a taco?
The second one.
The second one. Okay. That's we're just making sure. If you don't know why we keep talking about that, later, Google Trump and taco. It's a word. You're gonna need to know it. Okay, let's see. Dr. Cawthorn is known for her outgoing and warm personality. Oh, wait, she wrote this. Never mind. No, she is cool. She's pretty fun. And her sharp clinical mind. That part's true.
Yes.
She grew up in Fairfax. She went to UVA. She graduated in a year we're not going to say with a degree in chemistry and then biologic specialty. Those are big words. I don't know what any of that means. She studied some kind of hormone that I'm going to make her say because I can't say that word. And then, anyway, she's an OB. She went on to become a OBGYN, and she's a genius doctor who is responsible for delivering a lot of my kids, nearly all of them. And so, yeah, she's pretty cool. Then she's got a buddy whose name is Delaney Washington, coach, and who has been providing personal fitness training solutions to clients in the D.C. area since 1997. We're going to give him the credit for that because we're not going to say when she graduated. That's how the double standard in America.
Yeah, you just got to do it.
For him, this is an accomplishment. For her, we don't say when she graduated college. Right. Okay. Thousands of clients, special fitness needs, athletes, youth. Maybe you can help me with my shoulders. Something really going on there. For the past decade, Coach is focused on supporting women in the perimenopause, menopausal stage of life. We're going to ask what those words mean and all kinds of other great stuff. Anyway, they're both on the show here because they've got something cool. Various cool people who have no business being on this show. Welcome to Chip Chat.
Yes. Good to be here.
I don't mind saying how old I am because, now that I'm in menopause, I'm positive about aging and all of those things.
Okay. Well, then
I'm 49.
There you go.
There it is.
It's a good number.
We're positive about that sort of stuff now.
It's a square of a prime too, so that's cool.
And it rhymes with feeling fine.
There you go.
That is there we go.
So there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
a
Good rhyme.
So since you are experts, before we go too far, can you determine which of these is in fact the chicken?
I think it's the white one.
That's right. That is correct. This is the chicken. Okay.
Are we gonna am I gonna lose my conservative clientele with this show?
Yeah. 100%.
Oh my God.
We had a lot of them already. The conservatives of Fairfax.
Yeah.
Well-known bastion of conservatism.
Yeah.
I mean, it was in the 90s. That's true.
Yeah.
It's fine. We're big with the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah, it's true. They listen to our show a lot.
How to shut it down.
Who does listen to this show?
Apparently, recently, a lot of people in Fremont, California.
Awesome.
Okay.
Which I had no idea was like the center of our listenership. But yeah, the Bay Area is big on the Chip Chat these days.
Nice.
We're
Well,
still mostly
congratulations.
DC, but that's
And for being on so long. I mean, if we talked a couple years ago, that's great that you're still here.
This is our 10th year.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's eventually somebody's going to notice. So let's talk about your new practice. So why did you start this new practice, and tell us about it?
So as you said, I was in private practice for 15 years with a combination OBGYN practice. I'm a board certified OBGYN, and just
What does that mean for the men who listen?
Board certified.
Yeah, they don't know that word either.
It means that you've completed training and then you also go through a examination process with the board of OBGYN to become board certified. And then you have to like redo that every year. Yeah.
Tell them what the OBGYN stands for.
Obstetrics and gynecology, which is delivering babies. That's obstetrics. And then gynecology is women's health care.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So did that for a long time. Loved delivering babies, obviously, especially your babies.
Yes. You did an excellent job. They're very cute.
Yes. And thanks to your other half, obviously.
She did most of the work.
Yeah. So, but saw a hole in the market in menopause care, entered this phase of life myself. I've been working with Coach for 10 years and became very interested in fitness and wellness and how medicine and fitness should come together where instead of fighting each other. And then decided to kind of jump off the cliff and start this business with Delaney, a combination of board certified medical doctor and certified personal trainer to help women through this phase to feel better, their whole body, not just paps and mammos, because menopause really is a whole body condition. And so that's what we did. Menos start because we're not ready to pause.
There you go. I was shocked to find out that domain was available because I was sure that somebody was going to have grabbed this. But
that person was me actually a couple years ago. So this has been in the works for a while. Yeah.
This joke has written itself now since the word was coined.
Right.
So
that's actually a great point because people haven't really thought about menopause. It's kind of taboo to talk about. You're not supposed to get old as women, like you kind of alluded to. And, we just kind of swept it under the rug. And that's really changing in the last few years. And so I think that's why, people weren't really thinking about menopause care as a population that needed care. Women's health is pregnancy and breast cancer, which are important things, but it's not the only thing. And so now I think women in our age group are saying, no, we need care. We're still going to live another 30, 40 years in this phase, and we want to feel good.
Well, and you didn't have to worry about some dude bro like buying the domain and camping on it because he never would have thought of it.
Right.
So, can you, but speaking of dude bros and all the rest of the men out there, can you help explain some of these words? We hear the words menopause, perimenopause. I think the other term that you hear is becoming useless to JD Vance. What do these words mean to the rest? Explain them if you could.
So like what is menopause is what you're asking?
Yeah.
So when girls are like 11 to 13, they get their period, and that's the start of them being able to have babies. And then around the age 51, you go through menopause where your ovaries stops making eggs and your period stops. So menopause is actually a clinical definition, which is no period for 1 year. Perimenopause is the time before. It means around, but it really means before. And it can be 7 to 10 years of like huge hormone fluctuations.
Wow.
That happen kind of as the ovaries dying. So it's a lot like puberty. So with 3 girls, you'll know about that.
Yeah. We're approaching this phase. I'm not looking forward to it, perfectly honest, but
it's fun.
My plan is to just throw them out back and hose them off if they mouth off.
Oh, that's a good idea.
What the
that's gonna go great. Well, luckily, somehow how fertility works, you get to go through perimenopause around the same time your daughter's going through puberty. So that's a good time.
That sounds great for
wow.
Wow.
So I grouchily door dashed tampons to my house. I was going to include chocolate, but then she was being mean to me, so I was like, forget it.
Said she didn't need you anyway.
Yeah.
Wow.
Google it.
What sort of weird, cruel, like harmful, emotional punishment did evolution do to us?
Right. Well, a lot of generations, people didn't live this long, you died at 50 a lot of times, heart disease and other things, infections. And so this situation of living 30, 40 years in menopause is really modern. And so I think our parents, I'm grouping us all in the same age.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm not there.
Yeah, you're fine.
I'm way behind that, way beyond that.
Our parents, they just wanted to get to a number of longevity. They're like, we just want lifespan to be as great as possible. But I think us and younger people especially, they're like, no, we don't want to just be 88. We want to actually feel good and be able to pick our keys up off the ground and do all these things, when we're older. So that's where, the fitness part comes in and all of that.
All right. So we're going to get to the fitness things in a second, but I do have a medical question that I wanted to ask. So being that you're a real doctor, do you recommend, and when I say that, I'm not saying that you're not, I'm saying that like there are apparently
non-real doctors. Yeah.
There are people making health policy who have absolutely no fucking idea what they're doing and have no medical background at all.
Right.
So that's why I'm emphasizing.
What the fuck was that?
There you go. Your credential here. So
there's a lot of non-doctors in the menopause space too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, a lot of functional type things. Yeah.
So, there can be people. I want to be clear also that like it's okay to be a not doctor and still be giving decent, advice to people about what they're doing and things. Mm-hmm. It's not medical advice. You shouldn't be doing that. But you can tell like, hey, you could drink a glass of water to a day. Like that's fine.
But an environmental lawyer, maybe not so much.
Maybe not. Right. He's such a good environmental lawyer. They went swimming in Rock Creek after a rainstorm. Fucking genius, that guy. So, do you still recommend that pregnant women who are otherwise healthy get their COVID shots, or should we listen to the guy who eats the roadkill?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously that happened. And I'm going to be candid. I'm not sure how I feel about the COVID boosters. Just in general, there's not a lot of data really one way or the other. I do think they're safe for pregnancy. But the problem with how this all came out is they didn't ask anyone. They didn't go to an advisory committee. They didn't ask other physicians. The American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, does our kind of guidelines and things. They came out saying, no, we recommend this for pregnant women and kids. The Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine, which is the high-risk doctors, they're saying, no, this is wrong. There's not even a CDC director, and they're making a decision for the CDC. So the real problem, we could debate COVID vaccines because it's not 100% clear, as just people that know about things. But what this really does is it's just destroying any faith in institutions. So you don't know who to believe or where to get guidelines, because there's no credibility. That's what really makes me nervous.
Yeah, I think that's very clearly the point here, especially because, correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, that there was the advisory committee was supposed to be meeting in June, just a couple weeks from now, to then issue this guidance that for as long as there has been a CDC and HHS, that this is how this has worked, right? Is that CDC advisory committee makes these recommendations, and then HHS and FDA put their weight behind it. But
it's just, and it's strange to me that they're specifically going for pregnant women and kids when most of the adverse outcome data is on young men, with the cardiomyopathy.
Right.
They didn't even mention that group. So it's definitely targeting pregnant women, which is strange to me. So,
Well, and from what I understand, again, I'm not the doctor here, but that a lot of this has to do with conferring some immunity to the babies because they're too young to get a shot or develop any immunity otherwise, right?
And that's very common. We give lots of vaccines in pregnancy for that reason, to protect the baby. I'm very pro influenza vaccine, something called Tdap, because pertussis can kill a newborn.
And it's rising.
Yeah, because people are not getting vaccinated. So because when you get a vaccine, you make antibodies against that, germ or whatever that you got the vaccine against. Antibodies cross the placenta, and then the baby gets those antibodies and then is born with protection. So they did studies on the COVID vaccine in pregnancy, and they did show that the newborns had antibodies for COVID, which is great. That's what we want.
Right.
And it's safe otherwise. There's no other issues. My other concern is that people are going to just stop getting any vaccines in pregnancy because they hear this. And, there's more dangerous viruses than COVID for newborns that, you definitely want people to get vaccinated against.
Well, and that brings me to my second question about this, which is just today they cut off the money that was building the new H1N1 bird flu mRNA vaccine in favor of, I guess, spending it to do it the old school way with eggs. Is that what they're going to do?
I don't know, honestly, what their plan is, but cutting funding. Right? I don't know what the
RFK is going to try to scrape the guts out of a wombat and use that for. I mean, what?
We're going to have H1N1 parties like the
chickenpox parties.
Or what isn't vitamin A like curing measles, and all those kids are getting toxic vitamin A?
Curing measles by giving people liver failure. That I believe is.
I mean, when you're dead, then measles is cured, right?
That's right.
That's a good cure. Let heaven figure it out.
Great.
No, but it is definitely a dangerous time for health policy. And the problem with him is some of the stuff he says, you're like, well, that's not a bad idea. Like the food dyes and, some of the other stuff. Right. So it's hard to say he's totally out of line. There are a lot of issues with how
broken clock is right twice a day. I mean, that doesn't mean it works.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
But he definitely does seem to be, or whoever it is, the agency, Kennedy, Trump, I don't know whoever it is, but targeting women's health research and defunding it. And recommendations. So
I mean, it's right on his face. I think actually we talked about this the last time that you were on the show, which was about how if states are defunding the supportive care or the supportive services around, pregnancy and newborns and motherhood, like SNAP, Head Start, all of these other things, that they're really encouraging or increasing the number of abortions because, or miscarriages or all kinds of other, outcomes that they might not want because of the lack of support for, pregnant people in this country.
And contraception.
Right. Yeah.
Which is the best way to prevent abortion is prevent pregnancy. So.
Well, I thought God was supposed to do that.
It seems so simple when you say
that. In Missouri, women's bodies just know how to shut that down. I don't know if it works in other states, but that was in Missouri. So, all right, Coach, let's we've had fun with the medical side, but let's talk to you for a minute here. What are some of the most important physical fitness aspects of aging in general, but specifically revolving around menopause and at the approach into menopause, and then maybe even after? I don't know, what's the after period called?
It's all menopause. You're just in menopause forever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's no such thing as postmenopause. That's just where you are.
Gotcha.
But I mean, I think that one of the most important things to look at is weight bearing exercises. That's very important because you start to lose, bone density.
Right.
So you want to have that as part of your fitness routine. Getting lots of protein, is a big plus, because we start to lose protein and we want to build muscle along the way. Even as men, we start to lose a lot of our muscle after we turn the age of 40, so, women are starting to lose that too. So what I recommend is that they have, make sure to get lots of protein, do weight bearing exercises. My focus is a lot on functional movement, just focusing on the basics, core, balance, stability, those sort of things, and then building off of there then.
And a lot of like strength training, I think, is that part
of it? Yeah. The weight bearing exercise, you start out, there's always some form of strength training because as you don't stop. Because you're doing, that's my dog.
There we go. No.
That's okay. We're all dog people here too.
Exactly.
It's cool.
Okay, good. But it's, as you start to build, first off, you build a good foundation in the strength part, which is, I tell people, a lot of women and also for men too, I was talking to a lady that talked about what she used to do 30 years ago. And I get that. Trust me. 30 years ago, I could do a lot of things, but it's understanding that our bodies change too,
right.
And you have to adapt to the changes. It doesn't mean you can't get strong. And so you do want to incorporate, dumbbells or, kettlebells, whatever it happens to be, something like that. It won't be the same as it was, but it doesn't mean that you still can't get strong. You can't get fit, you still can't lead a healthy life. So, we start to emphasize those things, especially.
And I just want to say,
yeah, go ahead.
There's not a lot of data about menopause, but there is a study that was pretty well done. And it shows actually hot flashes are something that menopausal people get, where they just randomly get hot at inappropriate times. And some people, it's very debilitating. Other people don't get it so much, can cause sleep issues, lots of problems. 50% reduction in hot flashes with exercise and training.
Right.
Like, it's amazing. It's so simple, but not everything. Almost every menopause symptom gets better with exercise.
Yeah. Sleep gets better, mood gets better, cognitive functions get better all the way around.
A lot of people say, I've read lots of things that say that exercise helps with most of those things, which I feel like there's a strong consensus that around that, which means that must be 90% of all the experts lying to us, because consensus among scientists is bullshit, and therefore we shouldn't do it. And I have TV to watch, so
depth to expertise,
There you go. I need a white coat too. No,
right, exactly.
But Coach, like, TV tells me that old people basically can do like a few things. They can go walking, they can play pickleball, they can sit next to each other in bathtubs looking out at the sunset.
Okay.
But what are the like actual practical things that people can do? And we can't all play pickleball all the time, right?
So first off, when you say old people, I'm going to have to take some exception. I'll be 65 this year. Okay.
I'm not saying it.
That ain't old.
I'm getting ready to, get my Medicare and everything else going on here. So,
no, you're not.
So us
It's
old
gonna
folks,
be gone. Never mind. Go ahead.
us old folks, we still get around a little bit. We still do a few things though. So, but strength training. I train people that are in their 70s and in their 80s, also too. Strength training. Because as you start to get older. I have a lot of older people who, their posture, for instance, starts to go. You start to get bent over, they start getting weak in their legs, which, accounts for a lot of your strength, getting good leg strength. You start to lose your balance. So, you focus on those things as you get older. And you can still, maybe not going to build muscle the same way that you used to, but you can still be strong. You can still feel confident in how you move. So, again, I work with, older people who we use dumbbells, we use bands. I have them do balance exercises, a lot of balance exercises, a lot of those, because you'd be surprised, when you're young, you can do a lot of things. You can move easily, but, balance is a big thing as you get older, and so there's a fear of falling, of getting back up. So we train through all those things, because I've worked with stroke victims. I've worked with, a person that only had one leg. So, It's a lot of different things.
That one leg was really strong, though.
It's gotta be, right? It's doing 2 legs worth of
When
work.
you're working with coach.
Yeah. So that's true. Got a
But
strong
the good
leg.
thing about what we're doing is we have like former D1 athletes,
Right.
you know, and then we have people who have never been in a gym.
Right.
So there's a lot of diverse fitness experience in women of this age as well. And so the best part is having a professional person like coach that can help you wherever you are. You know, if you've never been in a gym, it can be really intimidating. Or if you're like 49 and now your hip hurts all the time, you need adjustments on what you're doing. You know, it's nice to have somebody that can help you with that. So,
Well, and speaking of that, like, you know, I wasn't a D1 athlete, but I was a varsity high school athlete. Like, that's the last time I had any real professional, like, involvement in how I should train, how I should eat, you know, all of those things. And so, like, when I started feeling my age, okay, I was like, oh, I'll do stretches. And I was like, oh, I remember my stretch routine from the crew team. And like, that's probably not the most useful routine for somebody my age and capacity anymore. So like, how do you have to like teach people a whole different way of thinking about their own, how they move in space and all that?
Well, but one of the things I think is, you know, what I like to do first off when I'm meeting somebody is I like to do an assessment. That's the first thing. You know, I do what I call like an overhead squat assessment. I'll have them move and I'll look and see if their feet turn out, if their knees turn in, if their hips, if their back is swayed, all those sort of things, you know, because there could be anomalies that are causing that. You know, I mean, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago for me, you know, when I was playing sports, we never talked about foam rolling or stretching or doing all those type of things.
Yeah.
I mean, you just didn't do it.
You didn't even drink water.
We didn't.
Tablet.
We wouldn't drink water. We had to take salt tablets all the time.
Yeah, you had a salt tablet. That was it.
That's right. So what you do is once I do the assessment, there's certain things that you want to target. Okay, maybe your hips are tight. You know, we have to focus on doing the stretches for those particular movements. Maybe there's anomalies where your muscles have gotten knots on them, and how do we get rid of those knots? You know, so by the assessment, that's where it's not a cookie cutter formula. So you know, you can have the same thing, but everybody's not the same, so you have to adjust accordingly.
That sounds complicated. God bless you for doing that.
It's fun though. I love it because you know when somebody gets it and you see the light bulb go on, and you see them actually starting to do it and start like Shannon will tell you. I see her. She said, "You're just complimenting me to be nice." I said, "No, I'm seeing you actually do these things. I'm watching you change." You know, so I'm because she knows I'm not nice like that in the first place.
It's sort of like a puzzle to solve, right? Each person is their own different puzzle. So that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Chip, for one second on this, I had a question. Like in starting this new practice, what's been like the most challenging thing? I guess
that's a good question.
As you guys,
that is a great question. I'll take it. So
I got it.
Well, honestly, it's been market education. You know, so people aren't used to going to a practice like ours. We're out of network. We don't accept insurance. So there's that barrier, and just kind of convincing people like this is a different way of doing things and it's going to be worth it. And you deserve that, you know? So, you know, obviously my old patients know what I can do,
right?
But that's not thousands of people. So just trying to get us out there, you know, appreciate you guys inviting us and educating people that, you know, the 15-minute annual is not enough. Like you need more care than that and you deserve more care. And it's out, we're here, we're ready, you know, to take care of you. And then with the fitness part, a lot of people are like, oh, I already go to Orange Theory or, you know, I already do whatever. And that's great. But just like we've been saying, having that combination, kind of a one-stop shop, you know, there's a lot of value to that. So it's really been educating the market is the biggest challenge.
So you're telling me that person offering
right, I know exactly where you're about to go.
Let's call them exams outside the back of the gym was not who the medical professional they claimed to be?
Ruh-roh.
But even beyond that, but like it all being in house, right? And you have like
Yeah.
experts,
We have a studio here.
right?
We're trying to build community as well,
Yeah.
and we've had some people that would talk to both of us at the same time, and we were really able to connect together, which was great. But then some people only want medical. There's a lot of sexual side effects of menopause. Treadmill not necessarily going to help that.
Sure.
Right. Fair.
And then we have a few that only want the fitness. They're fine. They're having an easy menopause as far as gynecology, and so they're fitness only clients. So we want to be really flexible as well.
Right, because that's okay if individuals just right. That makes sense.
Well, but having the like cohesive wraparound service aspect of it, it allows, I would imagine, more flexibility in the type of care that you're getting, right, for the individual patients, because it's custom tailored to what their needs are.
Right.
And they don't have to go 3 different places. Like,
exactly.
Good Lord. One of the things about having a Downs kid is that, like, she has 1,900 doctors, and like we have to go to like this doctor and then get their information over to that doctor and do this thing and that thing. It's like I spend so much time schlepping back and forth just for these appointments. It's crazy. I wish they would all just be in one place.
Yeah.
And, but that's a different
day. I was going to say also too that the thing about, like you said, about the cohesiveness is because I could be working with somebody and I could see certain things occur that I could say, look, I think you maybe should talk to Dr. Cothran about this. If something's she's right next door to me.
Right.
So that's the beauty of that. Cause I notice certain things also too. And I'll point them in her direction also too.
Well, I'm sure it goes each direction. I mean, all the time, right? Like, oh, doc, I got this pain. You don't really need to see me. You need to go see coach.
Right.
Exactly. That does happen.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Do you think that the way that American society treats aging in general, but specifically menopause, is unique to like America, or does the rest of the world do this better, or what's our problem here?
That's a great question. I would say Europe and Australia does some things better as far as medication. There's a lot like testosterone, for example, is whatever their equivalent of the FDA is FDA approved for women, because testosterone goes down in women just like it does in men. But in the United States, you can only get FDA approved testosterone if you're a man or if you're a woman transitioning to a man. Otherwise,
interesting.
Yeah, maybe not anymore. Yeah, it's not gone yet, but so we have to dose male testosterone at 1/10 of the dose, and it's not easy to do. So they kind of have more access to medications and things. I'm not as familiar with the fitness programming in the other countries, but there also are different cultural feelings about aging and how women aging especially is expressed even in the US in different ethnic groups, and so Asian women don't get as many hot flashes, but they have a lot more bone density issues in general, right? In Hispanic culture, aging is even more of a taboo, and fertility is so part of the culture that nobody really wants to admit about menopause. And so it's harder to talk to them about it. They don't want to acknowledge that they're in it. So there are some cultural sensitivities even here about aging and how people feel about that. So I would imagine that that's true in different countries as well. I don't know.
Do you think that the reason the Australian women have less of a problem with aging is because they're upside down, so it goes backwards for them? No? Okay.
Yes. And they probably die from like spider bites early on.
Right. They don't live to be 35 because they're out surfing or whatever.
Right.
Get bit by
stingrays. Okay.
There we go. That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah,
stingray. There we go. I was waiting for the stingray.
Thank you for putting up with that incredible piece of humor that I'm so proud of. Okay, so the next two questions, I don't really know exactly how to direct these, but if Medicaid funding is cut substantially, and you're not doing insurance exactly, but I'm sure you have thoughts on this. If Medicaid funding is cut substantially, which it is in the one big beautiful bill that got through by one vote in the House, what will that mean for these kind of critical treatments for people who are dependent on that?
Yeah, right now menopause care is still pretty niche almost. It's kind of like where fertility care was about 25 years ago, and that's a shame, right? I mean,
Right.
everybody goes through menopause, but our hope is that, doing this, it will kind of, eventually get down to insurance-based care and, change the model of medicine. But I can guarantee that Medicaid is not covering menopause care. Even
Correct.
now.
It's already not helping.
No.
Shocking.
So I think where that's going to really have an issue for our population is just going to be access. It's going to dramatically decrease the access to care, and then people aren't going to get the health that they need, and it's going to, bone density, heart disease, even cognitive function, all of those things are affected by menopause. Even diabetes, everything kind of gets worse when you're not proactive about health in this phase of life.
So then this next question, maybe we'll take both answers. We'll have you both answer. Don't tell the other one what you're going to say. Why should men be paying attention to menopause?
Well, go ahead.
Well, I'll speak from experience. Okay. When my wife went through it, I didn't know really what was going on. Back and forth to me. There would be nights when, it's too cold, it's too hot, it's back and forth, it's grumpy, it's back, and of course I'm the type, I want to fix it,
Right.
They tell me what's wrong, tell me I can fix it, do this. And there was nothing she could really explain about that. And so looking back on it now, I could see I knew I would get frustrated sometimes because I didn't know what was going on or what I could do to make things better. And I just didn't understand about what was going on. She also was type, she didn't really share a whole lot with me either about it. I knew some basic things, but I didn't know that's what she was going through until after the fact. And so,
but now he tries to give me advice all the time.
But
maybe you need some.
I'll say, but for me now,
can he tell when you're off your meds? Like, is that what?
Yeah, he's like, "Are you taking that testosterone?"
I'll just come in tapping, looking. You okay? Everything good today? Yeah, fine. Okay, good.
See the AC bills shoot up in the office. Okay.
But I'm learning as I go through that. Having gone through that, and then also working with Shannon. I understand more about how sometimes I know for me, pull back some. Don't have to try to fix it. You don't need to try to fix it. Just kind of be more understanding and be more, of a partner with your partner with this, So it's understanding that part. So to me, that's what it's done for me. And working with her has helped a lot with that too. I've gone through and understanding a lot more about the sort of, I can't know everything that they go through, but I can see it more, when she told me that, that my brain feels kind of foggy and or she feels kind of grumpy or whatever. I'm learning that, okay, this is a part of it also too. So pull back some, give her some space, we'll bring it back around again.
But we've also seen it with me with my hip pain, because there's a musculoskeletal component of menopause. And I gained weight, and we looked back because we've been tracking for 10 years and just, what we were doing then versus now. It's the difference is my age.
Right.
So we've had to change some of the things that we do, working out. I've had to exchange some of my expectations too. But I think it's nice. It's a nice question. about what men can do. I think backing off is a good answer, honestly. I have had men come up to me and be like, when are you going to do something for men? And I'm kind of like, never. Get your own stuff, you know?
I don't want to ask it that way, but like,
I've had people ask. Yeah.
This is going to sound pretty self-centered, but I hope
this is what this whole show is self-centered. What do you mean?
There are a lot of men.
My name on the thing.
Hey, what are we talking about, right?
Okay, but like, have you thought about maybe having classes for idiot husbands who don't understand, like to prepare them or like teach them something? Because, you know, the health class didn't prepare me for this at all, you know, and I could read on my own, but maybe that I could get bullshit information from, you know, RFK. So like, have you thought about adding like, bring your husband to the doctor class?
Yeah, and we have had couples come in, you know, both, you know, just talking about the woman's health, not as much the man's health, but
yeah, no, the men don't need the health aspect of it, but like so that they can
learn. But you know, even when I was a resident, I didn't learn anything about menopause. An OBGYN resident, you know, so I'm training to be a women's health expert, nothing about menopause. So we have so far to go as far as education, just of even doctors, you know, other people taking care of menopausal women. I think that the men's class is a little bit going to be later. I love that people are asking about it. I think that's great. But if women know more about it, hopefully they can, you know, dialogue with their partners, you know.
I had that question earlier, and I guess you've kind of answered it there. It's like, right, obviously, and maybe this is changing more now. I'd say maybe over the last like couple of years, but no one's ever talked about menopause, or it's like, again, hush, hush. And I was going to ask, in the actual field of medicine, is that the same? Like, are people talking about it? I guess what you're saying there, if we're not being trained on it, it's not happening there. So how do we even get it to policy or even to the general conversation if the medical field isn't doing it? That's it's very
changing. I mean, OBGYN's so focused on fertility and deliveries, which is an awesome part of being a woman. I love taking care of people in that phase and have my own kids. But we're more than that, you know. Not everybody is pregnant in their life, but every single woman goes through menopause. Right. So I think the lack of solutions and data kind of has also kept doctors not really talking about it. I mean, I know even a couple years ago, I was like, I'd love to take care of it. Coach and I were talking about writing a book about menopause and weight loss. I was like, that's how we're going to get rich, because everyone's asking me questions, right? And then I'm like, we don't have anything to say.
There's no
but
data.
That's changing. There's a lot more hope. There's more data coming out. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with these NIH cuts, but there is people thinking about funding and menopause now. But a lot of my friends, when I left the cult of corporate medicine, were like, menopause, you're crazy. Like, it's so annoying. They just complain all the time. You know, we can't really do anything. Like, even my OBGYN friends were saying that. Wow. And I think it's just because it takes an hour for me to find out what's going on with people. And that's just not possible in a corporate medicine.
No.
It's just not possible. Wow. So no, the answer is no. Doctors don't really talk about menopause. You know, and there is a stereotype of like a grouchy, hot lady with like the picture of margaritas, like from that 70s show, that, you know, that character.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of mood disturbances, but I do have to say, as the woman on this show right now, some of our anger is righteous anger. So sometimes you guys don't do the dishwasher right, and that's not menopause. It's just you're terrible at the dishwasher. Okay, so.
You're in a safe place here. This is a feminist show, despite the fact that we're dudes.
I'm just saying, I got to speak up for.
We'll do it
as you should. No,
yeah, no, we appreciate that. So speaking up, how can people get in touch? How can people, you know, if they want to, they're interested, they want to book a session. I don't know what to even call it, but like just to find out more if they want to.
So our website, thank you for showing it. It's menostart.com, MENO-START.com. That's the best way. Or my email, scatherine@menostart.com. Those are the best ways right now. And we'd love to partner with anyone on their healthcare journey in this phase of life.
So we'll make sure that we're going to post clips of the show, all through next week. So we'll tag you,
great,
and all of that. We found your Instagram. We tagged the Instagram. So
we should write. You should have to write some copy for us, and we should have it should be one of our own ads.
Yeah, you want to be one of our sponsors? You don't have to pay us or anything.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just do it. Sure. Yeah. Write us some copy. We'll say it.
Yeah, write us.
I just want to advocate for Coach. He has a lot of opinions on a lot of different things. If you guys,
okay.
We like opinions on this show, but only certain.
I always am looking for a day off. So
You want a day off.
We'll tell you.
Hey, do you have any medical treatment for somebody who doesn't do shit around here?
That's me.
She does like, because I get going, and then because we start talking about documentaries and about the healthcare and about we have different issues as far as race. We have great discussions. There's great discussions. I do.
Awesome. This sounds like our show.
Yeah, it sounds like our show. So we'll have you back for that.
Do you guys want to show on the network?
Yeah, you want to show on the network? I know the guy who owns the place.
That's what we need is a show, really.
We could be the medical ChipChat.
Yeah, it probably would do better numbers than this.
Watch us put them on and then skyrocket. They're going to be like
this is weird. I could
the 10th pole of Beltway Radio.
Obviously.
All right, we'll talk offline about that.
Don't forget about that. I
happen to know the guy that's 1/3 of the ownership of this here Fakakta network.
He does a lot of work. He's really
but it's scary times in healthcare. So I'm glad you guys are shining a light on that.
We do our best. It's one of the 5 things that we never shut up about. Yeah. It's like healthcare, basic economics, climate, and nuance, and just like nuance in general, but like around specific things. So
nuance and specific.
Right.
Yes.
I told you earlier when we started. I said I don't know if you've really gotten this nuance thing. You're working on it, though.
I'm getting there.
I guess. Yeah,
also, we argue about soccer. That's another important thing that we argue about. It's good.
Football.
That's coming up.
Football,
okay.
Exactly.
So one more time, the website, and then we'll go ahead and hit our first break of the show because we're an hour in, and that's on time.
Menostart.com.
Okay. Very good. All right. We're going to take a break.
Oh, there we go. I don't think we can see it.
We're going to put the banner up. Don't worry. We're going to put it
appreciate that.
In the Chiron. It'll be sponsored by menostart.com. And then,
new sponsor.
You're going to get so much business from our show. I guarantee it.
Thank you, guys.
I appreciate that. We're gonna get all the men being like, "Where's our class?"
Yeah, they want to know.
This could backfire.
Says men start. We want to be in.
You can't spell menopause without men. Right?
That's true. There you go.
I'll treat ED if I need to.
There you go. There you go, everybody. People will be tuned in now.
I'll Google that and then add it to my website.
We're helping people stand up for the cause.
Hey, there you go.
That's bad. All right. We're going to go take a break before we say something else wildly inappropriate. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Shannon Cawthorn, Coach Washington, thank you for coming and hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. We're going to take a break. You're listening to Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Swips.
You got to check that pH balance, baby. 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 is in the air tonight. Something smells fishy, and we ain't eating fish. Thinking to myself, what the hell is this? Sex is good, but please do better. You need to get that pH balance together, baby. Let's crack, crack, crack a window. Let's crack, crack, crack the door. Don't blame the cat, don't blame the dog. That pH balance is off, baby. You gotta check that pH balance, 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 baby. Let's crack, crack, crack a window. Let's crack, crack, crack the door. Don't blame the cat, don't blame the dog. That pH balance is off, baby. You gotta check that pH balance, baby. You gotta check that pH balance, baby. You gotta check that pH balance, baby.
All right, welcome back to Chip Chat here on Beltway Radio and Beyond. I'm your host, Chip. With me is Tez, and Brian must be stopped.
Yo, to
Brian.
To Brian.
Brian.
Dad, after this lovely segment we just did, we decided to put on, I don't even know, like, first of all,
All right, so
AI
what's the name of this AI monstrosity, Brian?
You heard it. You got to check
pH
it.
balance, baby. Yeah, it's obvious. It's obvious. That's obvious.
I mean, it's perfectly themed for what you guys were talking about.
Who is
Menopause
the
and all that
alleged
stuff.
singer of this thing?
It's all AI, my friend.
Doesn't even give it a fake name?
I think there was a fake name.
What's your prompt for this? Did you make
did
this?
you
What's
create the song
prompt?
or you Googled it and it already was there?
Here's the deal. I follow this thing on Instagram, and pretty much it's like, it's all these are like quote unquote black artists.
Yeah, black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently it's called AI for the culture. So
No.
I shouldn't have asked. You know
This
what?
is the most
Enough.
This
We
is,
don't know enough. We've heard enough. It's just there we go. All right, I've heard enough.
you want to know how you know
Actually,
this
surprise
AI?
it up. I want to remember the slap,
Oh my
Yes,
god! How can I forget
okay.
that? How can I forget that one?
I got
I've
to.
been
I
humming it
actually
all week.
have some actual. This is actual, information. So pretty much the song is actually based of an actual person, and there is this black person by the name of, what was his name? It was George something.
Not a
and
thing.
he pretty much, it was like, it was like one day he just had enough, and he ends up being like, he wore an actual
white
suit that said Slap Man, or pretty much Slap Man. Kind of like what was that? It was like back in remember that old movie from Damon Wayans, Blank Man.
Right.
So it was like he wore this suit. It was, mind you, it was supposed to be funny, but he was serious about certain things. So pretty much the song was based off about that. So, but this, it's again random. I mean,
culture AI is what it was called.
It's AI for the culture.
AI
it's
for
a lot of good. The beats, everything is cool, and then once you start hearing the lyrics, it's like, holy shit, it's funny as hell.
Wait a minute, are we sure that some like racist Klansman white guy isn't behind this, like programming this?
Most of these, like I said, most of these songs, if there's this one track I'll play maybe next week that you really think is like maybe some white dude wrote this. So, but honestly,
don't play that on our show.
No. Honestly, this was pretty much was the first track I ever heard from.
We give you a lot of trust on this show to play stuff. We don't even check, but everything's
been all cool. Actually, it's been getting a lot of followers and stuff like that.
I'm sure it has.
Yeah.
So, but this one track, it's really fun to I played it like several times because it's funny to listen to.
All right,
that was a very interesting aside. I'm sometimes less is more, and I should understand that and ask the wrong questions. And now I got answers that maybe I didn't really want the answers to, but that's okay. Now, all right, AI for the culture. The next sponsor we need. We might as well at this point. We'll roll out of Dr. Shannon and Coach, and they're doing their read, and then we'll go pH balance AI right after.
Yeah. We'll play it in the background under them. Or
give it the beat. Let them have the beat.
There we go. They can be the back. Oh God. No. We're gonna get the wrong type of listeners.
Hey,
maybe no, don't hate. No.
Hey.
He said, "Well, you focused on listeners."
I heard the
word. Oh God. Yeah. Let's do my favorite part of the show.
Let's do some headlines.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Here we go. You want to go first or second?
Sure, I'll go first. Let's just move on from AI for the culture. Donald Trump went to West Point to give a speech to the graduating Army officers who would be protecting our great nation from threats for a generation. So naturally, he discussed golf. What's wrong with that? And trophy wives. Something's kind of wrong with that. For about 45 minutes before his trophy wife borrowed an Army Humvee and left.
That's right.
She obviously would drive a Humvee.
She was gone. Not to be outdone, J.D. Vance also gave a speech to some young graduates of the Ashley Furniture Outlet and Repair School. There were many casualties.
Oh, God. Just lay off the Victorian. Trump also took time out of his golf weekend, which I don't. He's the president. That's why it's bad. To yell on the tarmac about how pissed off he was at Putin. He was kind of angry. Kind of. No word yet on which window Trump will be falling out of, but it will have to be a larger than average Soviet model.
That's right. Taco Bell released a new menu item, an orange shell taco full of chicken, available only to Wall Street bros, and it has its own special dip. You have to play that taco dip.
Play the taco dip. Isn't this just the Dorito taco? Isn't that what would anyway?
Yeah.
They're just rebranding it?
It's a Dorito Loco taco. Yeah, if that's what you want to call them, that makes sense to me.
Yeah,
President Doritos Locos Taco.
He sounds like he should.
For anybody who doesn't know why I keep referencing this and the chicken thing, Wall Street has coined this new term taco, which is Trump always chickens out. So whenever there's a tariff, he's going to back off from it. Whenever there's a threat, he's going to back off from it. And they're figuring out how to play what they call the taco dip. And it looks like a taco where he talks down the price of something, buy it at the bottom of the thing, and then catch it on the way up. So it's, and then the reporter asked him about it.
It's a taco grift is what it is.
Yeah, well, but if you're playing the market, I mean, you let him do it. You can take advantage of it too if you've got any little bit of liquidity there. But the reporters asked him about this. They're like, what do you make of people, saying taco, Trump always chickens out? And instead of saying, people say things, I guess that's, whatever. He like spent 25 minutes angrily bashing the reporter, like she was the one that came up with this term.
Reporter, you ask these terrible questions.
Nasty. It's a nasty question. It's like she's just asking the question. She didn't write it.
You didn't write it.
Come up with it. Anyway, okay, go ahead.
All right. Everyone's favorite tech support South African, Elon SpaceX launched another Starship rocket, which for once did not explode right away.
That's right.
Inevitable failure happened in about 45 minutes, which is the same amount of time Elon spent in the government.
That's
which
right.
is true, but he did a lot of damage in 45 minutes.
Just like the rocket.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Liverpool won the Premier League, and they had a parade. And just for the record, I have been here the entire time.
Oh, no. They would have called you the terrorist.
Yeah.
I tell you, you would have been called a terrorist.
Well, they didn't call that guy a terrorist.
No, he's a white British man.
Sounds about white.
Sounds about white. It's so insane. And they were like, to go out and be like, everyone don't jump to conclusions about their race and who they are. That's immediately I knew they was white. I was like, what? They never do this.
Because you remember the last time everybody freaked out and started bombing mosques and stuff when that wasn't also correct. But did they say anything about who the guy was or what the motives or anything were?
They haven't got to that yet. They almost feel like they're kind of protecting him.
Just saying, I was here.
You were here.
On this side of the pond.
You didn't run in and mow people down.
Evertonians marked safe from getting run over at a Premier League Championship parade.
Oh, look, I'm just saying, there are good people on both sides.
Many fine people.
Many fine people on both sides. Okay. All right, staying over on my side of the pond there. King Charles took a break from milling about Buckingham Palace to visit Canada, where he delivered a speech to Parliament and a puck to a street hockey face-off.
That's true. In other world leader news, French President Emmanuel Macron was caught on video being shoved by his wife in the face, or as the French call it, foreplay.
South African President Cyril, is it Ramaphosa?
Ramaphosa, yep.
Ramaphosa, I thought I had it right. Took a well-deserved vacation after his visit to the unfortunately named White Genocide House.
Yes.
While on his break, Ramaphosa was seen frantically folding paper airplanes and tossing them towards a cardboard stand-up of Donald Trump.
That's right. In New York, the trial of Sean Diddy Combs continued on, featuring crying, salacious details and tales of violence. And that was just from the sketch artist.
God, that sketch artist is just making his money. He'll be viral forever. The Diddy trial has taught us some incredible information. Like Diddy blew up Kid Cudi's car with a Molotov cocktail and not with what had guessed. And not with what had guessed a bag of flaming hot Cheetos and baby oil.
That's right. Yes, right.
Yeah, I mean,
reality TV stars Julie and Todd Chrisley were pardoned by Trump, and while they will be coming out of federal prison, Todd still won't be coming out publicly for some time.
Wow. Oh, God. Don't be careful. You remember what happened to Gawker.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that, but God, live your truth. Everybody should do that. And we should accept them. The Tate brothers, Tristan and Andrew, have been charged in the UK with rape, assault, and human trafficking. Human trafficking is a little different in Britain than in the US because they drive on the left. That's crazy. Wow. Also, shout out to Tristan and Andrew talking about being black men accused of crimes.
Wait, they're what?
Yeah, you didn't hear that? Anyways, yeah, saw that somewhere.
News,
news, yeah.
Breaking news. Is that how the one-drop rule works?
Look, want to be black. Want to be black. I guess you can be black.
I mean,
whatever. No,
you
identify.
guys have like a veto? Can you be like, nope, no, thank you? We'll take the Pope, but not you.
I mean, if you take in the initial, the Haitians as they start their revolution, if you were anti-slavery, you could come there, you could be black. If you were anti the French and anti-slavery, you could come and be to Haitians.
I hate French people. I'm
there you go, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Texas passed a law to post the 10 Commandments in all public school classrooms, likely violating the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. But don't worry, no kids in Texas will be harmed, as they already stopped teaching reading ages ago.
Christ. Okay.
And that's the headlines.
Hey.
All right. You want to do some rundown, or do you want to take a break?
Let's do some rundown.
All right. Let's do some rundown. Now we've come to the part show called The Rundown. This is where I tell you about some stuff that's going on in the news. If we were professionals, it would sound a little something like this.
You keep interrupting.
From Beltway Radio and beyond in Washington, D.C., I'm Emmy-nominated TV newsman and just bona fide sexual beast, J. Scott Smith. And this is the part of the show where I tell some stuff about maybe not me, but somebody else is going to tell some stuff about what's happening in the news. So what's going on in the news, fellas?
Thanks, Jay. All right. So this special edition of Rundown is called Trump in Court, and this is a frequent topic on this show. Yeah. This one's called Told Y'all This Was Going to Happen. Now, from the time that we printed this part of the show where we told y'all this was going to happen, more stuff has happened. So
do we tell them about that, though?
We're going to have to do it we added that. And so we're going to have to do this a little bit of a timeline. Yeah. Here's the things that happened. Trump did a bunch of tariffs. Under what authority is unclear. He was using a law, which is, I think it's called IEEPA. That's the initials anyway. And basically it says that if there's an emergency, the president can do certain things. A national emergency, the president can do some things that normally would be Congress's job. Congress, as the Article 1 branch of the government, is the only taxing authority in these United States. The president can't issue any taxes, duties, tariffs, or otherwise. He can sign off on them, but Congress has to do that. The Trump administration interpreted in a new way that had never been done before this Emergency Powers Act to say that if there's a sufficient national emergency, that the president can unilaterally impose tariffs and other such import taxes, specifically import taxes, not bans on certain things, right? Because that's spelled out specifically in the law that if he wanted to ban certain objects or certain things from coming into the country or certain people, he could do that. But tariff was a new thing. The word doesn't even appear in the law, the word tariff. So New York and a bunch of other states and several companies, there were 12 states and a bunch of people, 148 House members joined this lawsuit, were like, hey, that's not how the Constitution works. You can't just do taxing without being Congress. And the Trump
people rare Congress has jumped up to do any of this on other things. It's rare that Congress has wanted to say be Congress because this is a rare thing.
Well, 148 House Democrats,
right,
and a bunch of state attorneys general. So somehow the Attorney General of Illinois had to stand up on Congress's behalf,
right. Which I guess so.
It's crazy. But anyway, so they go to court, and the court that they go to is the International Court of Trade, or the Court of International Trade. Sorry, and this is one of their. People think there's such like the courts, right? But there's several kinds of courts. But this is one that has judges that are appointed for life. It isn't an administrative court. It's not like the immigration courts or tax court, or Social Security court, which all of those are administrative and executive branch courts. They're not really like judicial branch courts. This is a judicial branch court. It lives in New York City. Its job is to sort out things that are international trade related. And so and oftentimes it hears cases with just one judge, but in this case, it heard this case with a 3-judge panel because of the significance of it and that they needed the answers. And they needed it quick. And the 3-judge panel came back unanimously like, nah, this is definitely not okay. And they put an immediate stop to this. No tariffs, okay, at all. And there were 2 categories. There was the reciprocal tariffs that he did where he did that dumb thing in the Rose Garden where he was like pulling out tabs and like reading numbers.
Is that Liberation Day? That's Liberation
Day. Yep. Where he taxed the penguins. And then also the taxes that he unilaterally imposed on Canada, Mexico, China, and a few other places, citing a fentanyl crisis, which again, not how this law is written. So immediately struck them down. That was the story. By this afternoon, 2 sets of appeals have happened already. One in the District Court of Washington, D.C., the Federal District Court for Washington, D.C., and then one that's in the Federal District Court, which is the court for like things that are federal, but not necessarily in the District of D.C. District meaning different things in this case.
Yes.
District to us means the district. District to the court is like is a level of court above circuit, okay. Or below circuit, I should say. Okay. They ruled that this is appealing. They let him keep the tariffs while it's going through the appeals process, which is going to happen like on Tuesday or something like that. So if the shock, June 5th, if the shock that the tariffs have caused the economy of the world haven't been bad enough, in the space of a day, in the space of a few hours, we're on again, off again, on again, off again, on again. And now there's this weekend period. So if you're trying to buy a thing, tough shit. It's not happening. Don't buy anything. The price is going to change 5 minutes from now.
Well, see, there's the problem of it right there. With you actually telling people not to buy things, and where the issue comes from the administration, right, is that you take a very good economy, right, for all the issues that it has, and a lot of those issues are like macro issues, right, that are bigger than the moment.
Wealth distribution being
right. Yeah. It's a bigger than, but there's policy, right, taxes.
But a humming economy.
Right? And you decide to blow it up, and you inject in it with something that no one is really able to deal with. Folks can deal with inflation, right? Because there's a point of it where it gets high, and we know that there are mechanisms, right, with higher interest rates that will try to break the back of inflation. But when you have uncertainty, right, there's nothing that can be done. And now, right, am I going to go out, right? Let's just say I want a car. Am I going to go get the car? I probably should go get the car right now. But the couple of questions I have to ask myself is, one, are the tariff prices going to adjust this up and down to the point where I don't really know what a fair price of the car is going to be, right, based on the taxes. But then also, too, with interest rates where they're at, and even for me, decent kind of credit, borrowing money is very expensive. And uncertainty
twice as expensive as it was just a little while ago.
Which, again, and I know a lot of folks will attack and say you don't know high interest rates fair. But for me, for us, this is very high for us right now comparatively to what we're used to. But it goes back to this uncertainty. And the courts, none of this, I'm happy that the courts are kind of intervening in this, and this is helpful. It's not going to change the damage that's already done. And I think the fall is going to be very treacherous. I think that is going to be where we see this come to back to school time. I think this is where we see everything kind of implode.
I think you're right. And I think that to your point, the damage being already done, there was a Planet Money I was listening to about how the on again, off again tariffs, even if they just disappeared immediately right now, what the costs are and the ripples through the economy are massive. And in some cases unseen, except for the people that are experiencing, which could be the business owners, could be the people employed by those people, it could be the people who are their customers, could be the people who are their suppliers. There's so many sides to this, which eventually includes all of us. The damage is done in two ways. One, those concrete examples of the price fluctuations, or people, sort of just drawing up the money out of the system in general and just sitting on it because they don't know what's the right thing to do. But there's also this sort of like fundamental trust in the system of the American economy that is now irreparably damaged. And this goes not just to the economy too. I heard somebody was talking recently about like making a deal with Iran. Okay, if Trump makes any kind of a deal, there's absolutely nobody who believes that this guy can mean it. And just because it's him, and we as Americans understand that, okay, Donald Trump doesn't keep promises and won't honor treaties or follow laws.
America should.
The rest of the world doesn't draw that distinction.
Right.
And so now the rest of the world is like, the Americans are no good for anything they promise. And that could be true for futures contracts. It could be true for purchases of big ticket multi-year things. I mean, you're talking about people trying to buy airplanes. This is a multi-year investment. You're putting in an order for an airplane that's going to get delivered 3 years from now, 4 years from now. You're putting in order for shipping, right? Ships being built, or truck fleets, or any of these kind of big things. Tractors. The price of a tractor now is something like 50% higher than it was a year ago. Farmers need to upgrade their equipment. Construction needs to upgrade their equipment. They need to replace things as they wear out. All of these things matter, and they're long-term investments. If you've got the rest of the world that no longer trusts the United States to hold up to their end of a bargain, no matter what the bargain is, we could find ourselves completely cut out of the world economy with no capacity to recover, ever. Why would anybody? I mean, in the same way that there's generations of people who won't buy a Japanese car, or won't buy a German car, right? There's still, that echo is still there, even 80 years later. So
I don't think it's possible, right? But I think the thing, again, which will drive this, and laugh at me saying this, is like, I think the American consumer is still very resilient, and everything is being thrown at them. And we saw it through the inflation crisis as well, too. The American consumer continued on, and maybe it's not at the same level. I don't think it can be, because, again, prices of things will go up. And if there's not anything on the shelves to buy.
Right. Our ability to buy stuff is unrivaled. But if there ain't shit to buy,
then that's the problem.
Different problem.
Because and that's where I think about this a lot. Is like, all right, well, I think Americans will still figure out a way to buy it, but if it's not there, then they can't buy it. Or if it's scarcity, that ends up throwing something into a wrench into the economy that I don't think we've dealt with. I've never been a part of this, like anything like this. I don't know. It'll be very interesting. I think the fall will be the big tell. I think it's going to be a cold winter.
Think snowstorm, but for months.
Yeah. Nuclear winter of the economy, to be honest.
There you go. The Penguins are coming. All right. Speaking of
really
things like that, NPR. So my favorite source of information and news is public radio. I don't want to speak for Tez, but I will.
No, it's clear. Yeah, I had my WETA thing just came in the mail today.
Yeah, right. We need our public broadcasting. It turns out the whole country needs our public broadcasting. NPR and 3 Colorado public radio stations filed suit on Tuesday in federal court against the Trump White House over the president's executive order that purportedly bars the use of congressionally appointed funds for NPR and PBS. Now, we do need to be clear. Congress doesn't give money to NPR. It's not a federal agency. The word national, it doesn't mean it's owned by the government. It's not a propaganda network. By all scores, just to be also very clear, by all possible objective measures of bias in reporting, NPR and PBS score as close to the middle as one can possibly get. Right. They are the meatball strike through the center of the plate as you can possibly get. And part of the reason that public media has always been so middle of the road is because they do depend almost entirely on the public for their funding.
Yeah,
and if
and
they
the public is very diverse.
Right. If they alienate half of the country, they won't be able to, like Pledge Drive. If you think it's annoying for a week, imagine if it's 3 weeks, because they won't be able. Here's how you know. Okay. Pacifica Radio, another public radio outfit, a decidedly left-wing public radio outfit, our local station, WPFW, 89.3 FM, Pledge Drive is a month long.
Right.
And they're raising like a tenth of the money that WAMU is trying to raise. And it takes that much longer because their audience is so much smaller. Okay? So there you go. NPR doesn't get any money from the federal government, but the Corporation for Public Broadcasting gets an appropriation from Congress, and it was created by statute by Congress as an independent, non-executive branch, independent corporation. It's not an agency. It doesn't belong to the government. The people who work there aren't eligible for like government health care. They're not eligible for government retirement. They're not government employees. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting disperses money to local radio and TV stations, mostly for things where they're starting up or buying new equipment or, upgrading the stuff that they've got, so that they can then continue their mission to serve the public in the area where they broadcast. That's the mission and the job of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Local public radio stations pay NPR for their content. And so when you hear us talk about like local station versus the mothership, the local station, a lot of local stations produce their own content. That's often done with money from Corporation for Public Broadcasting. But then the money that they raise through pledge drives and donations and all of that stuff, they use that to pay NPR for Morning Edition or for All Things Considered or for
American Public Media, for my favorite,
for Marketplace, or for Wait, Don't Tell Me, or any of these things that we all love. Okay. And they pay a fee for that. And that's where NPR gets its funding, majority of it. And that's what they use to produce those shows. In the Trump world, what they think they're going to do is tell CPB that they can't give money to those stations if they're going to then use that money to buy content from NPR, thus stripping money from NPR, whose coverage they disagree with, which again isn't biased. They just disagree with it because it keeps reporting the things that are actually happening.
Yeah, it's the truth.
So NPR, that's a long way of going about this. NPR went really into they went into court, and they were very careful about some of the language that they used in the brief. They quoted Tez's favorite justice, Scalia, your cousin. You want to read this quote here in the second paragraph?
Oh, hold on, let me find it here. Is this the wolf?
Yeah, it's not always obvious.
Yeah, it's not always obvious when the government has acted with a retaliatory purpose in violation of the First Amendment, excuse me. But this wolf comes as a wolf. The legal filing for the public broadcasters states, quote, the order targets NPR and PBS expressly because in the president's view, their news and other content is not fair, accurate, or unbiased. The line about the wolf obviously was drawn from the 1988 dissent by the late U.S. Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, my fellow birthday buddy, I believe.
That's right. So, and that is to say, the wolf comes as a wolf as opposed to a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Exactly.
That was the quote. So
they're talking about the government,
right?
I just want to stress that they're talking about the government is coming as the wolf for the amendment that the government, initial one, created. That shit.
The thing that, and what they're sort of talking about is that a lot of times it's very difficult because, when the government, whether it's state, local, or federal, retaliates or attacks something, they're smart enough to know
exactly
not to do it directly.
Right.
And so they carve out these things, or they make some sort of weird rule or statement that specifically targets or impacts one group, but they can plausibly say it wasn't meant to do that. The Trump people are not that clever or don't give a shit. And so they're just like, yeah, we hate NPR. Fuck them. Take their money away. Which, again, is not federal money. It's like it's less than 1% of their budget comes this circuitous route. So if you took it now for the local stations, though, it's like 14 or 15%. It would be really detrimental if you shut down CPB. But again, you can't go to court to do. The courts have already said that this is an independent agency. This isn't open and shut. Trump's going to lose on this again, and again and again and again and again. So, even though this is not the news, this is NPR.
Right.
Okay.
Give me the bell for that.
Yeah. Hey, go blue. Glenn
blue.
Washington, Michigan guy. All right. You want to do a test talk or you want to take a break?
We can do the test talk.
All right.
Powering through here. All right. This lovely story is called Penguin Poop. I actually saw this story and listened to it. So there's something in the air down in Antarctica. Is it love? Not exactly. It is the pungent gas wafting off piles of penguin guano.
Yes. That's ice, by the way, in that image. Just to be clear.
Oh, God. Hold on. I'm reading. I didn't see. Yeah, that's not the guano. That's ice. The penguins don't do that.
No.
It's not how they get down. But thanks to the penguins' diet of fish and krill, the millions of penguins that eat and breed here leave behind, obviously, their poop. That's chock full of nitrogen waste, which breaks down into ammonia. Who'd have thought ammonia was a great thing, right? And according to the study published today in the Communications Earth Environment, these foul-smelling fumes could help mitigate the impacts of climate change. So when I read this story, basically what it was doing, not even reading the story, hearing the story, maybe a few days ago, basically it's almost creating its own gas above like the ice sheets, which is slowing down the UV rays. Do I have that correct?
Kind of, yeah. So one of the
ammonia itself, right?
Yeah, the ammonia is helping form clouds, essentially. Right. So water vapor in the air, in a vapor state, water is clear. It's dissolved in the air, essentially. It's aerosolized. And it doesn't reflect any sunlight, really. You can't see water vapor. Right. What you can see when you see clouds is condensed water vapor, so tiny, tiny droplets of water. But what we know is that water doesn't condense easily unless it has something to touch, whether that's a little bit of dust, or in the case of most of the rain clouds that we've ever experienced in our lives, airborne bacteria, believe it or not. If it weren't for these bacteria that are floating in the atmosphere, we wouldn't have rain. And you'll even see, like people say, cloud seeding, like that you can introduce enough particulate into the air that the water vapor will condense around those little tiny particles, and then you've got little tiny droplets. And that's
they tried this with like a saline solution as well too. I've heard.
Yeah.
So like the ships like to have
Yeah, and it's the same thing like when you see the contrails, from the airplanes, right? That they're making water vapor by burning fuel, and it's breaking down into water vapor and carbon dioxide. But the water vapor is coming out the back, and then it's condensing, and that's why you can see it. But you can't if you look at the plane flying over right close to the engine, you can't see anything. But it's just a little bit behind it, you can, because that's still vaporized, but it's the condensed water that you can see the droplets. So what's happening here is that the ammonia fumes off the breaking down of the penguin guano is creating so much particulate or enough stuff for the water to condense around that it's forming clouds over Antarctica, and the clouds are reflective. They're bouncing the sunlight back up off the atmosphere and back out into space. So somehow the penguins are like protecting their own climate from our
clear. It's clear humans are going to be the ones asked out at the end of this, and they're going to be penguins and tigers and like everyone. But everyone, it's going to be. It's clear. When I heard this story the first time, I was like, "Oh, what the whole Jurassic life is going to find a way, like, and maybe it won't be our life, right? But these penguins are going to figure it out, because the things, I mean, obviously the penguins' food source could end up killing them off, and that could all. But the one thing I know that penguins are going to continue to do as long as they're here is shit.
That's right.
They're not going to stop doing that.
And take down helicopters. They're going to do two things. They're going to, well, three things. Three things are sure in penguin worlds: poop, taking down helicopters, and apparently taxes.
I knew that's what I was going to say. Yeah, exactly. They're going to get taxed. Tax the penguins.
So yeah, the Earth is going to heal itself. People are like, "Oh, well, the planet's in trouble." No. The planet will be fine.
It's
We will be in trouble. Speaking of the planet doing stuff, have you seen these eruptions from Kilauea out in Hawaii?
Right, no. It's
shooting fountains of lava 1,000 feet into the sky. Yeah. So imagine a jet of molten rock shooting 1,000 feet up. 1,000 feet just is 100 stories. That's a tall ass building of lava, and it's rock, right? So it's very heavy. It's landing, boom, 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 makes this incredible sound, and it gives us fuck all heat. I mean, the people filming it are miles away with these big telephoto lenses. They're still getting too hot, so it's crazy. Go look at it. There's video of it all over the place, and it's wild. This is episode 23 of the eruption cycle for Kilauea, which is kind of like always going a little bit, you know.
Right. But that's an incredible height for that to shoot up.
1,000 feet. It was only 600. I was like, oh, well, that's pretty impressive. 60-story building. No. You don't know anything that's 1,000 feet tall around here. That's 2 Washington monuments.
Monuments, yeah.
Crazy. All right. Let's get on to some local trouble here.
Yippee.
Here in Washington, we have a very expensive place called George Washington University, where
the first place I did radio.
Yeah, that used to have a radio station featuring some guy called Tez.
Oh yeah, WRGW.
And it is mostly known for being a top-notch school, right? In terms of public policy, law, and medical. Right, GW is just one of the best. It's also one of the most expensive.
Yes.
But they were known for something else this weekend, and Brian, our producer, happened to be there working, I think, the camera that caught this viral moment. Is that right, Brian?
Unfortunately, yes, that's correct.
Oh, well, that sounds bad. I've been there where it's like, I don't want to own up to this, but yeah, it was
okay, Brian, so tell us what happened.
So during this lovely lady's commencement speech, that's Celia Culver, she was pretty much was honored to, I wouldn't say she was like valedictorian for the Columbia School of Business. Not business, I'm sorry. It's Columbia School of Engineering and a whole bunch of other stuff.
College of Arts and Sciences.
Yeah, Arts and Science, yes. So
not
she gets
Columbian,
to be
clear.
Yeah. So pretty much
technically Columbia first.
Yeah, actually, yeah. GW's original name was Columbia. Yeah, what's going on?
I'll let it pass.
So, but anyway, she was like the honorary student to speak to her class and all the great people of the in the audience and stuff like that. So normally, like everyone would know, they submit a speech ahead of time to get approved by everybody so they can speak it. So everything was running smooth. When she got up there, she was doing fine. And then all of a sudden she says, she literally said this, but my heart can't continue saying this without saying this or whatever. And she went on this tear of saying we got, pretty much of GW is funding the Palestinian genocide, there all this, we need open we need the books open and make sure everything is legit. Where's my money going to and all that stuff. And you're hearing all these these jeers and cheers of what she was saying, and it was like, oh Lord, what's going on? So she said her speech, she gets the mixed reaction of a good applause and a lot of people were booing. And she sits back in her seat. And then afterwards, when, doing the procession, getting your diploma or what have you, there was like about her included, like 6 or 7 students screaming, yelling "Free Palestine" and everything. And it got to the point where it's like, oh God. And they had flags. They had like flags or sort of like these scarves and stuff. They had it, but it got confiscated by security because the administration told them to. And then after her speech, pretty much after the procession, the administrators, had to, apologize to the audience, saying, the words were, "You're not associated with GW," blah, 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 and all that stuff. So all in all, it's like, I get where she was getting at, putting, the whole issue of, what's going on over in Gaza, in the forefront. But keep in mind, just last year, GW had to close off a section of their campus, pretty much their main section, which is associated to their library, because of Palestinian protesting, the pro-Palestinian protesting. And that was a big deal then. So now it's kind of like, okay, this is now double duty on this. And I don't think this is going to stop until whatever happens in Gaza stops. So, which I don't know, it will be anytime soon.
Yeah. And nor should it. I look.
Because things are like, what do we expect from our college students? Isn't this what this should be the expectation? Almost. And again, they might not always be right. They might not always, again, use like, I guess, or speak in the actual, like, right, the proper terms of like, or like the way we would expect it in being around for longest. But I just don't know what else you expect from one way or the other, right? If on both, I expect the college students to do this, and I haven't seen the video, so I can't really speak to it.
I watched it. I mean, yeah, 22-year-olds are idealistic, crazy people.
I was there, yeah.
But keep in mind you, this is about, she's a journalist. She's a future journalist.
Okay.
So for her to come out, yeah. So because that's what pretty much that school is primary based off of, or she trying to be but here's where I feel like I agree with her and disagree with her. I agree with the fact is like, yeah, the what's happening over there needs to be addressed, needs to be talked about, needs to be constantly mentioned. I get that. But what stood out to me was, and I mentioned this to Chip, in pregame, was, okay, you've been in this school for 4 years. You're claiming the fact that since this recent issue between Gaza and Israel has come about, you still stay in that school. You didn't leave. I've had this discussion with a couple of colleagues of mine, and it's kind of like where you at, Tez. It's like one was saying the fact is like, I know there's issue here. You're young. You colleges are like this. There's a lot of issues going on in the world, and especially if you're in America and you go to a big known, highly financed school, you figure it's like, hey, I gotta say what I gotta say because we ain't doing it. You older people ain't doing it, so I gotta say it. And again, in this modern day commencement world where everything has been televised, yeah, you're going to be saying a lot and you're going to get viral, just like what Miss Culver has been. But at the same time, it's kind of like there are certain powers. And I recently saw something where it's like there's certain individuals who has the power. And unfortunately for her, she has the power of her voice, which is one thing, but you don't have the power to change everything. And I think that's where I understand her frustration. I understand where a lot of pro-Palestinians supporters are having the frustration, because get to a point where you can say all this stuff every time over and over and over again. And it's like, but we keep going through the same cycle. And it can be the same thing here with where everyone can protest about Trump and what he's done and what he's saying, what he's doing, and all that stuff. But it's like we're stuck with him for 3 more years.
Yeah, but the futility of it isn't a reason to stop doing it.
I understand that. That's the thing. It's like the thing is like, yeah, there was one thing that again, another video I saw was the fact is like, you can't stop mentioning, you can't stop your voice of continuing going on and letting people know what's really going on this planet.
Okay,
because the moment, like you said, if NPR goes away, everything's dead. I mean, honestly, because pretty much it's like you're killing people who have public perception of what's going on this planet instead of the typical corporate way of NBC or CNN or Fox News or what have you. You want to have those public opinions because they can see a lot more. They see the underground stuff. They constantly, knows what's really going on instead of just relying on, some guy. I've dealt with, the public aspect and the corporate aspect of media, because the corporate media, they only show up whenever it's too bigger than they can handle. I mean, it's like the times where I dealt with anything happening in Montgomery County Council, I only see the networks show up like maybe there's something wrong with Pepco. And it's like, okay, Pepco's an issue. I see
Otherwise,
NBC
it's
showing
locals.
up. Right. Yeah, that's how they think. And to me, it's like, okay, that's kind of a disservice. And you do need, and I hear a lot of people, public saying it's like, we need more public information, what's going on. And mind you, going through what Ms. Colberg's doing, it is that, kind of like that public perception of saying, it's like, I'm maybe young, I know, but I feel in my heart, I have to say this, which again, I respect it. But then again, at the same time, you got to get more seasoning to understand what's really going on. And especially if you're calling out the school that you're getting a diploma from, that now you've been banned by, because you trust and believe the reunion is going to be ridiculous. That you pretty much is like, okay, you're giving a false premise of what really going on, because do you really know how much money that your tuition is going to and where it's being spent at? Because honestly, I do agree, not a lot of people do know, because I've always had these weird debates about how you get all these crazy fundings for all these pro football schools. Where's this money going to?
So one of her requests or demands was to know where their tuition money goes, and that's fair enough. And this, the quote here was, I call on the class of 2025 to withhold donations and continue advocating for disclosure and divestment. Okay, also fair enough. But understand this. You have a right to ask this question. The university might not want to tell you this stuff. I think they probably should. If they want to, say where their endowments are invested, that's fine.
Right. They don't have to, though.
But they don't have to. I don't think. Okay. It is a thing where there become causes that are either so obvious that you should be supportive of, or they are popular to be supportive of, where the nuance and the detail of it are not what are things that a lot of the supporters skip. And it becomes very complicated to start talking about divesting from Israel. I think, I don't want to put words or thoughts in Cecilia Culver's mind here, but there are a lot of people who have this weird idea that the U.S. government or these universities or these companies are handing money to Benjamin Netanyahu with which he is buying bombs. And that isn't what's happening at all. Coca-Cola is bottling Coke in Israel and selling it to people in Israel and Jordan and everywhere else. Does that mean they're contributing to the bombing of Gaza? I mean, in a roundabout way, sure, because
we all could look at that and say we're probably contributing to that,
right? Because your tax money is going to this, or there's
investments, or that, your mutual funds. It can get tricky, but I think the question ends up being is that I don't expect my 22-year-olds to understand that, right?
Yes.
And I don't think for them the new, like I don't really look for them to have the nuances because they're still growing, and I hope.
And I don't want them to. That's fine.
Yeah.
But like the flip side of this here also is that the GW audience of professors and donors and all of these other people, you guys have to know what this is too, right? You know what these kids are going to say. If you can't handle criticism from an idealistic recent college graduate,
what are we doing?
Using her 4-minute platform to say this thing that, whether you agree with it or not, will evaporate into the distant reaches of the internet within minutes if you just let it. If you can't handle that difference of opinion, you don't really belong in that level of academia here.
Right.
You have to be able to let somebody give a controversial, obnoxious, entitled, whiny speech if they want to. Charlie Kirk exists. I have to allow that he is gonna exist.
Yeah.
And I have to just like choose not to give him another 10 minutes of my life and just let him say his dumb shit and just continue to ignore it. You donors can, whether if you're making enough money to donate.
But these people with money are soft, and you would think with people with money would have more of a I don't.
Yeah, you'd think they'd be able to tolerate a little discomfort.
A little bit more, and that's where the frustration is. That he's very soft around these things, where it's like, oh, their feelings are hurt about this. Let the kids say what the hell they want to say, and remember where this emotion comes from. When people are feeling issues with like the aid not getting to Palestinians, like there's a lot, like where this raw emotion comes from can't be lost in it. And that's why I'm just like the nuance. I can only imagine, like the nuance should be for us, right? For us on here, we should be able to talk through the nuance, right? Around all of this here. But the root of it, though, that brings and evokes this type of irritation, this type of reaction at a commencement speech, I think like I can't really be that frustrated with this. I think the big piece of this as well is that these in a commencement speech, right? This is the graduating class. It takes away from everyone else that's there to graduate a little bit, right? And but maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe again using her voice to put eyes back on the again genocide, which is a really I think feel comfortable.
Yeah, there's no other thing to call it.
Yeah, so like
critical of the way that Israel is, or not Israel, but the Benjamin Netanyahu right-wing extremist government is perpetrating a genocide against the people of Gaza is perfectly legitimate. As a matter of fact, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert called it a war crime just this week. So it is, and again, just to be very clear, being critical of government policy of the state of Israel is not anti-Semitic, and it is not necessarily even being critical of the existence of the state of Israel. It is perfectly legitimate to criticize the behavior of a particular government. And this weird obsession with this is coming on the right in the same week that we had the terrible shooting at the Capitol Jewish Museum, where 2 Israeli embassy staffers were killed by a crazy person who was chanting Free Palestine. The chances that guy who came all the way from Chicago really understands the complexities of the war and what's going on over there are zero.
And takes away from what actual folks are doing and trying, like
it
the actual
cause of actually trying to help the people in Gaza.
Yeah,
sure.
All of this is to say that, as I've said, I talked to Brian about this earlier, I'll say anytime we, meaning the Jews, hashtag the Jews, are in the middle of the conversation, it's a bad time. Yeah. And when something like this happens at a commencement and it gets a lot of attention, it gives the people who mean to do us harm, of which there's 2 main groups, right? The people who mean to do us harm, it gives them fodder. It gives them fuel for their campaign against reasonable Jews. And the people, the anti-Jewish extremists, whether they're approaching it from a destruction of the state of Israel or whether it's from this white supremacist position. Both of them are incompatible with each other, but they both seem to have this one thing in common, is that they hate me. And there's a big like flux of stuff going on, and we're in the middle of it, and that's bad. Okay, it's not good if Jewish people are in the middle of the conversation. The Republicans and the Trump people are out here trying to kick people out of the country because they're being critical of the way another country is prosecuting a genocide against people within their own borders.
Yeah.
And they're doing it in my name without my permission.
Right.
While at the same time supporting the people who are making a claim that my people are importing those same people to replace the good, upstanding white people.
So it's like, what? But then the question ends up being, right, it falls upon Jewish people, but it's like, to me, I did to get into the nuance. This is an Israeli government, right? To me, that's an Israeli government policy at this point. But the right in this country has made this into anti-Semitic to a Jew. I don't know. What's happening isn't a Jewish problem to me.
No,
it's that to me, as I look at this, like, because Judaism comes in a lot of different, like, if you could go deep into it, you can't just say it's a Jewish problem. No, this is an Israeli government's response to, again, what Hamas ended up like, the attack that Hamas did. And this is a heavy-handed response that at this point you're looking like you kind of raised everything to the ground. It's
not just the response of like what they did, this whole thing about displacing everybody and using food as a weapon and all. It's utterly reprehensible. There is no defensible position here. I don't think there's anybody really making that argument, or if they are, they're maniacs. But the issue of people, of Christians telling the Jewish president of Harvard that he is presiding over anti-Semitism,
crazy,
is ass backwards. You can't tell me what anti-Semitism is. I'm the Jewish one. Just like I can't tell Tez what anti-black racism is. Right. It's not, I can't be the one to define it because it isn't my thing.
Right.
So, whether it's Trump or Ted Cruz or any of these goyim, like, you guys don't get to decide this at all. And shut up, just get out of here and shut the fuck up. And if Stephen Miller wants to have a position on it, he is technically Jewish.
He does. He's Jewish.
But he can shut the fuck up too. Like, this isn't. And if you can't handle being told to shut the fuck up by a 22-year-old whose name you're going to forget in 10 seconds, what the fuck is wrong with you? Jesus Christ.
Well, that's clear. It's the Martial authoritarianism. Like, it's clear as that. It's clear as day. Like, it's because these institutions are afraid of what we just talked about.
Yes.
DW, I could assume, is very frightened. I mean, this is literally 5 blocks away from the White House.
They don't need the Trump people coming cracking down on them the way they're cracking down on Harvard, trying to take their endowments or God knows what. But
because it's about the money, like, it is about the money. Because
stop doing it in my name. I don't like that.
Terrible. Yeah, I mean,
that is not cool. And if the ick factor of the Trump people wasn't already at 99%, it's now crossed into north of 100. I mean, it's so gross that you're claiming you're doing this to protect me from what? You're protecting me from a kid speaking? What the fuck? I can handle it.
Well, you have Charlottesville as an example, and there was no protection.
Nobody's protecting me from them.
No one is.
I saw them get pardoned.
And they are the issue. Like, that woman, right? I don't like, again, while I'm not saying that she might not, again, influence folks, I don't know if her message is, and again, I let you say this here, her message doesn't seem as scary as the motherfuckers with tiki torches and people running over people with cars. Like, again, not saying that she couldn't influence people, right? But
she wasn't chanting about people.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I didn't see anything in it that was like, again, she wasn't like, again, walking around trying to smack yarmulkes off people, right? Like,
she was calling for disclosure and divestment. She was not calling for violence. There is a big difference,
shit, right? Paper gangster type shit, right? Let us see the books. Like, we want it, like, all right, cool, that's fine. I don't see any issue with that. And again, I expect my 22-year-olds in this nation to do that. I don't think they should lose that type of spirit. Again, as long as you're not getting to the point where it's violence, or again, like Jewish people can't walk to their classes because they're worried about violence, or the same thing for Arab folks, they can't do it because that's where we cross these different lines. But if that's not happening, let the woman speak. And
it's crazy. And I'm sorry that Brian had to get caught up in that, as he's just there to film it.
I'm just here to film it. That's all.
Just doing my job, man.
Man, job. That's all you can do.
Okay. Speaking of graduations, there was another incident here in Wichita, Kansas. Did you know that they had high schools in Wichita, Kansas? I'm shocked.
Yes, you bum. You're terrible. You're terrible.
It's a Catholic high school. No, they know.
Yeah, of course.
So this young man, his name was Austin Tran, I believe. He was supposed to be given this speech, and then he turned in his speech, and it was like 2.5 minutes long or whatever. And then he didn't feel good about that, so he stayed up all night writing a better speech. And it was much longer. It went on for like a good 6 minutes, really long. And he delivered that. And as a result, they like stripped him of his valedictorian medal and a bunch of other stuff in a very draconian response to a scheduling snafu. I don't know why this is a problem for the administration, but then the community responded and they all got behind Austin, and they started like petition to give him his stuff back. I didn't see if they eventually return his medal. I guess they did. Yes.
Yeah.
The dean said that she returned the medal. She said it was an easy decision to make. I don't regret returning the medal because of what it means, and it doesn't mean what I thought it meant before. And then I have no use for it anymore, she said. Not articulate at all.
This is the dean.
This is the dean of the school. Well, it's Wichita. So in any case, again, grown-ups, if you're so bothered by, young people speaking, maybe don't be in education. It just seems like the wrong field for you. I don't know.
Again, because we're supposed to empower them to have these conversations. And again, they're figuring life out.
They need the bold, they need it. And also, this guy's mistake is that he was too good a writer. I mean, come on. Of all the things to be upset about.
The funny thing was about it, because initially he wrote his initial speech, it had some humor in it and stuff like that. And the administrators, when they first saw it, they felt like, no, it can't, they gave him these weird rules and guidelines. And
can't make fun of the bishop, can't make fun
and all
of
that stuff. And it's kind of like so again, like you said, he rewrote it, submitted it, and then he figures like after the submission, he sees it again, reads it again, and figures, let me tweak it up a little bit more. And he just missed the deadline to submit it again. But it felt like, it made, maybe a little longer, maybe added some more things to it. But again, it's like you said, it's like, what is the whole point of, if you're going to have a student up there to say what he wants to say, and then you're going to give him these weird guidelines, these weird rules and restrictions, and don't say anything, have him pretty much just like, why have him up there in the first place?
Yeah.
Just have them a random adult up there that no one knows, unless it's Kermit.
Let AI culture do it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, there we go.
Feel like slapping a graduate today.
Yes. Oh, let me submit that.
No, I feel like smacking the dean. I feel like
Brian.
smacking the dean. I feel like smacking the dean and all these.
Yes.
Brian, no.
So, but again, it's like you said, it's like, these are young people. This is how you're going to introduce them into the world. It's like, well, you can say what you want to say, but you really can't unless you change it a little bit so you can be happy and nice, and everybody will feel happy once they leave. But really, it's like, it's not going to be you. It's going to be somebody else. Right now.
We're slipping into it, man. Like, if we're not there, this is it. Especially around this is a high school. We first were talking about the college and we're slipping into it.
You want to give the illusion that the kid is the one speaking, but you're going to have such a heavy hand on what he can say or how he can say it. That's fascism.
Yeah, it's clearly
let's not do that. Speaking of fascism, this government, they fired all the people who do the weather stuff, and guess what that meant?
Tornadoes
23
kill
people
people.
died in Kentucky because they didn't get an early warning about the tornadoes. So, hooray. You voted for this.
I mean, it's clear. Even the weather apps now, it'll be like, it's raining. There's no rain. Or it'll be like, there's not going to be a thunderstorm.
Afternoon, my dad was complaining about how the forecast for Saturday had changed so rapidly during the course of the day. And I was like, Dad, it's because they're launching one weather balloon every other day instead of 2 a day from every site. They're not getting the data. They don't have the information to crunch.
It's clear. You can look at your weather app. You'll see easily, if you focus in on it and look at the forecast on there, you'll realize that it's obvious.
You can see the temperature predictions have widened. You can see that the rain prediction times have widened. We've gotten used to very precise weather forecasts that have been very, very accurate for years now.
Yeah.
And they just announced like the hurricane predictions for this hurricane season. Unless, of course, you get a Sharpie and draw them to go in some different direction.
It starts next week.
I think it started this week because what happened yesterday felt like a tail end of a hurricane.
Well, that's not how weather works, Brian. You don't get to do it by how it feels. But I guess in the Trump...
yes, you do. Now you can.
Brian's the new Trump National Weather Service Director. How many Sharpies do you own, Brian?
I think I got 10.
Okay. Yeah,
I got enough.
Yeah.
I can change the culture of America.
Oh my God. Speaking of dictators doing dumb shit with water, Little Rocket Man. Okay, so Elon launched a rocket that blew up, right? Eventually, it spun out of control. But not to be outdone, Little Rocket Man is out here sinking his own ships.
It's kind of what Elon does.
Kind of. So North Korea, thinks it's a country, and they had built a ship that they were going to use to huck missiles at South Korea, I guess. I don't know what else they do. And so they went to go launch it, and it just tipped over in the water and it started to sink. So they were like, oh shit, let's cover it up with a blue tarp before Kim Jong-un sees it.
Of course, not the satellite, but Kim Jong-un.
And then he saw it and he's like, oh man, I got to kill a lot of people for that.
Yeah.
Rather than fix the problem, he's like, yeah, everybody's going to jail or getting killed as a result. Kim blamed the mishap on, quote, absolute carelessness, irresponsibility, and unscientific empiricism. I don't know how it's unscientific and empirical, but okay. Public prosecutors and naval experts have hauled in the shipyard's manager and inspected the ship above and below the water. Yeah.
Get fired, bro.
Dude, it probably wasn't going to work anyway. It's a North Korean ship. It has screen doors for portholes. No, we can't tell those jokes about North Korea? We can definitely do that. What are they going to do? Shoot us? We've got a Golden Dome now. All right. That's the end of the show. Boom.
Wow.
Right on time.
Right on. Look at this. This is the earlier one.
Yeah. So we want to say thank you to Dr. Cawthorn and Coach Washington for hanging out teaching us all about MenoStart. Go to meno-start.com need services, or if you just want to learn a little bit here and there. We certainly learned a lot today.
Yes, there's a lot of fascinating commentary. In
our favorite new sponsors.
Yeah, I really hope I can't wait to read one of these.
I think they might be smart enough to steer clear of us, but we'll find out.
Of course, yeah, they're gonna be. What the fuck were we just on?
But anyway, just Google them if you need their services, or if you don't, just want to read. Thanks to our radio partners. Let's see, who do we got here? Oh, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, NPR, and PBS. Thanks to NFPN for keeping us on for another week, maybe. Don't know. I haven't checked on them in a while. I don't know what their funding stream looks like. Thanks to our home on the interwebs, coplaymedia.com. And thanks, as always, to our family here at Beltway Radio for making us sound as smooth as Trump's phone call with Putin. All right, where can everybody get you on the socials there, Tez?
You can find me on Blue Sky at DC Cortez.
All right, you can find me and the show on the Twitter at ChipChatRR. You can find us on Facebook or Instagram at RipChipChat. And you can find me on Blue Sky at Chef Chip, making taco jokes and posting videos of the show and doing all kinds of stuff and making use of the platform as much as I can. and hanging out. It's a cool place to hang out. You should come hang out with us on Blue Sky. Even Brian's there. Brian, where can they get you on the Blue Sky?
I forgot.
His username is like one of Elon Musk's babies.
It's a bunch of letters. It's like Elon's kids.
Yeah.
There's a BTB and an FSNW, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, minus the 1.
You'll find them. It's fine. All right. And you can, of course, find us every Thursday night here at 9:30 on Beltway Radio and beyond. I'm Chip. That's Tez. Brian somewhere in the background causing an AI menace. You've been listening to Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Check your pH balance, baby.
Oh, God. Jesus.
Promises political violence, but no hearse. FTG and Shapiro try to rap, but don't rehearse. These right-wing nuts can't get any better, just worse. Tez and Chip out here trying to save the republic like Tez on the golf course. It ain't private, just public. When we have a drink in the bar, it's not beer, it's a public. It's hard to get something to rhyme with this subject. If we get famous, we can give a shout out to Brian. To get us out on time is what he be trying. The show is like a custom feathered avian that knows words. How can we stay late when our guest is Illy Bird? In conclusion, the message is to go out and serve folks, whether that's through art, music, or if you just tell jokes. Seek to medicate your ears, hope you eradicate your fears. Thanks for sticking with us through all these years.